Good afternoon. Season 3 of the Semi Thoughts podcast is here. I want to welcome everyone back. It's been about 2 months, but when you're a creator, sometimes you have to take a break, step back, reevaluate some things, and try to figure out where you can improve. But it's good to be back. It's definitely good to be back for season 3. Like I said, I just needed some time to myself, so I'm ready. I'm back, and we kicking season 3 off. With a bit of a controversial, I guess you would say, topic, but we're gonna break it down. So, you know, obviously, with the podcast, a lot of the times, I like to have guests on. I like to have varying perspectives and I like good dialogue. And one of the things that I don't do, unfortunately, is, give my opinion on things. And the reason that I don't give my opinion is because with podcasting, there are so many different opinions in this space. And one of the things that I really like to do is cater content around the specific goal of what I'm trying to do here. And, a lot of the times I just don't like to insert and interject my opinion in places. So, this is something this season I'm gonna try to do a little bit more of. I guess I would just try to, the podcast is called the Sip My Thoughts podcast. And a lot of the times I'm bringing you content and I'm bringing you interviews, but without my specific, perspective on things. I just like to have conversation, go back and forth, ask the questions that I think listeners would be interested in knowing. So this season, I'm going to do a little bit of giving my opinion on some things. And I feel like my opinion is respected to a certain degree. Like I said, I just don't really like to just give my particular takes on things. But from time to time this season, you'll hear a little bit about what I think about certain topics and issues that I might bring to the table. So this week I wanted to talk a little bit more about. First of all, SWAC Media Day took place, and obviously Deion Sanders is a polarizing figure. He's a Hall of Famer, he's a Super Bowl champion, and he's just been a winner at the highest level. So now here he is taking over an HBCU football program at Jackson State University. And, just the bells and whistles that comes with Deion is just, it's just what comes with it. Again, he's a polarizing figure, and everything that he's done in his career, he's earned it. So now he is bringing that same bravado, that same enthusiasm, that same motivation to 18 to 22-year-old kids and are trying to get them to, live up to the expectations that, first of all, that they have for themselves. We all, just as men, and I'll say black men in general, the connection that we have with our mothers is something, it's something unlike any other. Like it's just an experience that can't be explained. So one of the things that Coach Prime always talks about, when he's doing his press conferences, or when he has his speeches and conversations with the team, he always tells them about, my motivation was to get my mama, in a better situation. So when he's talking to his players, it's a little bit of the same also. So that's the whole background and the bravado that he brings. And this past week, everyone has pretty much talked about how a reporter, addressed him as his first name, and he wanted a certain level of respect. So the reporter, continues to call him by his first name. And as a journalist myself in that position, I just feel like you have to have a certain level of accountability, responsibility, and couth. First and foremost, the reporter is white. That is one thing. And he is used to covering SEC media days. Since the coach at Vanderbilt was fired this past spring, I believe every coach at all of the SEC institutions are white men. Not I forgot the coach of Vanderbilt's name. I believe his name was Derek something, but he's no longer the coach at Vanderbilt. Now, every other football coach in the SEC is a white man. So there is a certain level of comfortability, I would say, between white people where they can call one another, by their first names and things of that nature. It's just what they do. For Coach Prime, for an example, again, when I first started, he's a Super Bowl champion. He's a Hall of Famer. It does not matter how many rings, to me, it does not matter how many rings that Nick Saban has. Nick Saban is an exceptional college football coach at the University of Alabama, and he wins at a high rate. He's won multiple national championships. But Nick Saban wasn't the player that Deion was, and he certainly isn't a Hall of Famer. Now, he'll be a Hall of Famer as a head coach, but as a player, there's a difference. And again, there's a certain level of comfortability that comes along with being a white man and talking to coaches that look like you. And, they might allow you to address them and talk to them in a certain way. And this has nothing to do with race. And when I say it has nothing to do with race, in particular, he felt comfortable enough because Deion is such a polarizing figure. So he felt comfortable enough that, SEC Media Days, I address these white coaches, by their first names. But what he failed to realize is that he does not have a relationship with Deion Sanders, aka Coach Prime, to be addressing him by his first name. And you would think something like that would be common sense for a reporter, but the issue here is that he's so used to, addressing white men in a certain, shape, form, and fashion that, he was just flippant when it came to Coach Prime and just hauled off and called him Deion. You do not have a personal relationship with him in order to even address him in that manner. And I watched so many national news outlets pick that up and, talked about how Coach Prime walked out of the interview. And, there is video footage that surfaced from black media outlets that were in attendance also that showed that wasn't the case. So when it comes to working in media, and I said, as a journalist myself, these newsrooms predominantly do not look like me. So for that reporter to do what he did to Coach Prime, he just felt comfortable enough to do that. Now, you can't address everybody the same. And this is just common sense. And the reason that he addressed Coach Prime as Deion is simply because he has no respect for Coach Prime, the coach. So Deion is a household name. Athletes who have established themselves to a certain extent, history, sports, individuals look to them and they address them by one specific name. So Giannis, for an example, who just won an NBA championship, LeBron. Now they have the Greek Freak and they have King James, but they are specifically synonymous with one particular name, which is their first name: LeBron, Giannis, Michael Jordan, Mike, Deion Sanders, Deion. So athletes who have excelled to a certain level and extent, they are the ones who are, who people or reporters, just people in everyday, in an everyday walk of life, they refer to them to their first names. However, the only thing that Coach Prime was trying to inform this guy of was to tell him, you don't have a relationship with me like that. So you don't have the privilege of calling me Dion. So then he hauled off and he did it again. And he called him Dion again. So at that point, this is no longer about this being some egregious act. At this particular point in time, now this is an example of white privilege. He told the reporter not to call him Dion, and he hauls off and turns around and called him Dion again. Now, why did he feel comfortable enough to do that? It's not because that he has a relationship with him, because he doesn't, which is the reason Prime told him to not call me by my first name. And he turned around and he did it again. So at that point, you're no longer making an honest mistake. You are doing this intentionally. So because you're doing this intentionally, I'm not going to talk to you again. So that's pretty much what Coach Prime did, and that's the way that he moved. And you can't be mad at him for that. If I tell you not to do something, or not to address me in a certain manner, and I've earned that particular stature and the weight that's held behind my name, you don't get the opportunity to address me in that manner. And the only reason that he did that it was his white privilege showing. This is a clear example of white privilege and how he felt comfortable enough to turn around and call him Dion twice after Coach Prime told him not to do that. Now, to this point, I haven't seen anything from the newspaper that this particular reporter works for in regards to if there's any disciplinary action or anything like that that's going to occur. But it kind of just seems like because Coach Prime is a polarizing figure, there is a certain level of responsibility that he absolutely has, as the face of a college football program that he has to adhere to. However, we all want respect on any job that we work on a day-to-day basis. You want your boss to respect you. Just like you should respect your boss, you should respect the janitor, anybody else in that building. But you can't do something like that and think that he's obligated to sit there and talk to you, because at that point, he's not. You've openly disrespected me after I told you not to do it. So at that point, you don't have any respect for me, and you're showing me that you don't have any respect for me. So again, I haven't seen if the newspaper made a particular statement about it. Obviously, I've searched their social media to see if any statement or anything has been released, and it hasn't. So who knows if they are condoning the behavior? Hopefully they're not. But if they are, it's just going to make the relationship between Jackson State and the Clarion Ledger, which is the newspaper that this reporter works for and covers the SEC, specifically Mississippi State, it's going to make that relationship strenuous when it didn't have to be. I asked you to do one thing and you turned around and did it in my face again. So that shows the lack of respect that you have for me. So who knows where that relationship will go from here. Obviously, I've seen Coach Prime do some interviews with some of the black media outlets in the city, and he's spoken about the situation. He's also spoken to HBCU Game Day, which operates out of Atlanta, Georgia. And, he just basically said that, we're not going to be talking in so many words. He didn't say that specifically, but, the relationship between Jackson State and the Clarion Ledger, is now frayed. And it's not just frayed because of this situation, but also because of a report that was written about their highest ranking recruit that is set to come in, who had some other charges that he has to face in court. And apparently, according to Coach Prime, the report written by the Clarion Ledger was inaccurate. So because that is the case, according to Coach Prime, I cannot confirm or deny that this is the case, but this is what Coach Prime said. So if the information that the Clarion Ledger posted is not accurate, then again, there's going to be a fray there. And as a journalist myself, you definitely don't want to see that type of behavior, especially because the reporter who wrote the story it's a black reporter. Now, these are two separate incidents from the white reporter at Media Day who referred to him as Dion. But the story is that there was the Clarion Ledger has a black reporter named Rashad Milligan who covers Jackson State specifically. And he wrote a story about an incoming recruit, and he detailed some domestic violence charges that were pending against this particular recruit. Now, again, according to Coach Prime, the story was inaccurate, and in turn, that has strained the relationship. And again, as a black reporter myself, you definitely don't want to make it hard for a reporter. So hopefully, they can get this situation mended. And again, because having a black reporter covering an HBCU is extremely important and something that it's paramount. So hopefully they can mend that situation. But the topic that I'm really here for, though, Shedeur Sanders. So at SWAC Media Day, Shedeur Sanders made some comments that kind of, ruffled some feathers on social media and across other SWAC fan bases. And I just want to play what was asked of him, and then I'll discuss my opinion in a greater detail. So let's play that. Here we go.
It equates to a blowout. You gotta understand, y'all don't really understand. Like, it's players that have different caliber of talent. They all came to JSU, so it's like when you compare us to a regular SWAC team, a different SWAC team, the best. Like, you understand, we didn't come here because we had to. We came here because we chose to. It's a difference.
You feel like a successful day against the defense in practice.
So basically what Shedeur is saying here is that, okay, so if in case you didn't hear the question, Tali Carr, who pretty much does most of the digital stuff for HBCU Game Day, he asked Shedeur, what does a day of practice look like when he's going up against Jackson State's defense? So when he's on offense and he's going up against the defense and they have a successful day against the defense, Tali Carr asked Shedeur, what does that look like when in regards to when they play SWAC competition, right? So Shedeur's answer was basically that we got all the tools, we got all the weapons on both sides of the ball. So what he's saying is that we've gotten talent from everywhere. Now, this talent had other options and other institutions that they could have committed to, but they all decided to come to Jackson State because they saw what could be built at Jackson State. So his comments are being taken as he's saying that, okay, y'all decided to come to Jackson State, and players at other institutions are at these SWAC schools because they didn't get any offers at other FBS institutions, right? So here is what I think. Now I'm only addressing the competition part when he talks about how when he dominates their defense, the Jackson State defense that he goes up against every day in practice, and when he says that equates to a blowout against a SWAC team, That's what I'm going to address. I'm going to address both parts, but I think this particular part is extremely important. So for some reason, for a period of time, there seems to be a stigma that Black men need to be humbled. We need to act a certain way, portray ourselves in a certain way. Don't speak highly of yourself, or don't big yourself up when you're doing when you're doing good things, and when you have a certain level of confidence about yourself. So I read the comments under that post on HBCU Game Day on Twitter, and there are a bunch of comments from other Black people who are saying some of the most vile, ignorant things that are just, it's kind of mind-blowing to me. Now, from a fan base perspective, I get the camaraderie of the competitiveness. And if a guy is saying that essentially and basically we're going to blow everybody else out because I go against a defense every day with transfers from the SEC and other institutions, basically FBS institutions. So I get the competitive comments that people are making, right? But there are some comments that are, it's strange to me, and it's strange in this way. First of all, he is the son of a Hall of Famer. He is also the son of one of the most flashy, let's just say confident. Confident is a really good word to describe who Deion Sanders is, how he has carried himself throughout his career, right? So when you look at the comments that Shedeur made, what did people expect for him to say is what I'm really wondering. What did you expect for Shedeur to say? Did you expect for Shedeur to get up there and say, oh, well, every team in the SWAC is competitive and we're going to go in each game and just try to do what we can to get the W at the end of the day? His dad ain't like that. That's not something that his dad would say. So why would you expect his son to say that? A quarterback at that. If you know what type of person Prime is, do you not think he's instilling that same level of confidence in his children? Why wouldn't he? Why would he not do that? It's a better question. There seems to be a conversation or a stigma in our community that, we just need to be humble. Don't big yourself up. And when you grow up and you age, life puts you in certain situations to where you're tested, right? You're put in situations to where you don't know how you're going to make a way. You might not see it tomorrow because you're living in the hell that today has placed in front of you, right? At a certain level of time, a certain point of time, what are you going to do to get yourself out of that situation? So let's just speak specifically from an athletic standpoint. I was a former athlete. I played college baseball. But I'll say this, and this goes beyond sports, and this goes beyond, and it's more so tailored towards your everyday walk in life. There are times when we walk around and we aren't as confident in ourselves as we should be. We should all have a certain level of confidence, a certain level of air about ourselves. You can borderline on cocky as long as you back it up. One of the things about Coach Prime, when he was a player, Prime talked. Every player and opponent that he went up against would tell you that he backed it up, though. When you go in that boardroom to make a presentation that you've studied for, that you've done all of the necessary groundwork for, you're going to walk in that presentation like, damn right, I'm ready. I'm prepared. Let's do this. But society seems to hold this particular, black men just need to be humble. And this is about to be corny what I'm saying, but the whole Kendrick Lamar, be humble, sit down. That's kind of pushed on us as black folks, not even just black men, but as a black man, this is specifically what I'm speaking towards. Society tends to, first of all, it's already hard enough to be a black man anyway, but imagine being the son of an NFL Hall of Famer. Now, Coach Prime has this saying where he says he don't believe in peer pressure. He put pressure on his peers. His son is he's QB1 of a program that's getting ready to rise exponentially more than it already has since Prime has arrived on that campus. So Shedeur will say that he does not feel any pressure. And I truly and honestly believe that he feels that. He doesn't feel any pressure by being the quarterback at Jackson State University. And his father is the head coach there. So for him to go out there and make those comments at SWAC Media Day, he didn't waver. His facial expression did not change just based on after the comments that he made to Tali Carr. There is a certain level of confidence that was etched on his face after he made those comments. So what Shedeur is basically saying, we're not playing with y'all. In so many words, as black people, and just for the black men that I saw in those comments, right? What did you expect an 18-year-old to say? We all said dumb stuff at 18 and 19 years old. And I'm not saying what Shedeur said is dumb. What I'm saying is that just being blunt, and my mama listens to this, Mom, I'm sorry. We don't pop our shit enough. As black men, we don't pop our shit enough. That boy is 18 years old, 18 or 19 years old, and is about to travel to Miami on September 5th to play FAMU as a starting quarterback at Jackson State University. That game is going to be on ESPN 2 or 3 or whatever, but it's going to be on one of the primetime ESPN networks, which means thousands and potentially millions are going to watch that game. The comments that he made at SWAC Media Day, once you looked at his face, does it look like somebody who was scared, nervous, cares about your opinions? And that's the most important thing. When y'all get on social media and, I'm sure you're in his comments on, he don't really post a lot, but I'm sure you're in his comments, making all types of weird comments, accusations, and things like that. And one of the things that I've noticed just by, just watching his social media activity, he don't tweet a lot. He don't post on Instagram a lot. So you know what that tells me? That tells me that he popping his shit and he putting in the work that's going to go into helping him to be successful. And maybe one day, maybe a first round NFL draft pick quarterback. He ain't on social media like that. He ain't posting a lot. So that tells me that he is simply an extension of his father. Now, Prime is going to talk. Shedeur don't be talking. Shedeur don't be posting. You go on his page right now. He's working out with Kyle Trask down in Houston. This might have been like a week or two ago when he posted that. Other than that, there aren't any more tweets on his page. So you know what that's telling me? He is preparing. Coach Prime said it's SWAC Media Day. He didn't want to, so Shedeur didn't want to be there. He didn't want to miss practice. So that tells me that Shedeur ain't playing with y'all. He ain't playing with Alabama A&M. Well, FAMU, first of all. Alabama A&M, Southern, Alabama State, all the SWAC. He is basically, as the leader of that football team, with that comment that he made, he's basically saying, I'm not playing with y'all. At 18 and 19 years old, I'm not playing with y'all. we not playing with y'all. As a university, we're not playing with y'all. And for him to stand up there and say that, and you just, again, monitoring his social media behavior, that tells me that he's preparing, that he's putting in the necessary groundwork, the necessary legwork to back up those comments that he made. Why do we as black men have to humble ourselves when we're confident in our abilities? Black women too. If you the best damn hairdresser in the South, pop your shit. If you're the best author in the South or whatever region you in, pop your shit. Why do we have to be so humble all the time? Yeah, there is a time and a place for that. And I'm sure many people are looking at the fact that Shedeur has not played a down in the SWAC yet. So they are feeling like, well, you shouldn't be talking yet. Who are you to tell Shedeur Sanders what he should and should not be doing? If Shedeur Sanders is putting in the work to make comments like those, why do you care? You're only making those comments because you're interested in seeing him fall. That's why you're making those comments. That's it. You are looking, there are black people preying on the downfall of this 18 and 19-year-old young man simply based upon the comments that he made. And it's sad. From a competitive standpoint, I get it. You know, you're loyal to your university, you're loyal to that program. I get the rivalries, all of that. But this is bigger than just those comments that he made at SWAC Media Day. It's bigger than that. We tend to think that not only that we should be humble, but we tend to find a way to try to say, oh, we gonna humble you. Who am I? Who are you to tell that young man that he shouldn't pop his shit? Who am I or you or anybody else to tell Aubrey Miller that he isn't a SWAC All-American, preseason All-American, Keontae Hampton? Who are you to tell these guys that they aren't putting in the necessary work to earn these accolades? So I don't think Jackson State has a bigger target on their back just based on the comments that Shedeur said. Now, as a former athlete myself, Shedeur is going to have to back up those words. I agree with that sentiment. I agree with that. But am I going to tell Shedeur that he shouldn't pop his shit? That he shouldn't feel like he goes up against the best defense in the SWAC every day that he goes to practice? Am I supposed to tell Shedeur that he shouldn't feel that way? Are you supposed to tell Shedeur that he shouldn't feel that way? Are you supposed to tell Niles Gaddy and the rest of that defense that they aren't the best defense in the SWAC? Are you supposed to tell them that? Am I supposed to tell them that? No. It's not our responsibility. At 18 and 19 years old, to have that type of confidence in yourself is extremely important, because life outside of football, athletics in general, life has a way of touching you. And everybody black knows this. It can hit you in a way that's, just extremely unexpected. But if I'm doing what's necessary, if I'm putting in all the work that I'm supposed to go to a SWAC Media Day and say what Shedeur said, why wouldn't I say it? Who's going to tell me not to say it? You think Coach Prime, when they got back to Jackson State, you think when they got back, he told them, oh, you shouldn't have said that? No. But I'm sure Prime told him, I like it. Just make sure you putting in that work to back that up. And from everything that I'm hearing, I'm not saying I'm a SWAC insider or I'm a Jackson State insider, anything like that. But from what I'm hearing, Shedeur is a real deal. So we as Black people have to get off this pedestal that we've placed ourselves on and just think that we got to be humble all the time. We shouldn't say what you don't think that I should say. If I'm putting in the work, if I'm confident enough in my abilities, I'm gonna pop my shit, and you should do the same. And it doesn't matter what field that you're in. If you're confident in what you're doing, be confident, be bold. There's not enough confident and bold Black men out here today. That young man stood up there at 18 and 19 years old, and he basically said, "We coming for the rest of y'all. Now prove me wrong." Jackson State is basically saying, prove them wrong. Shedeur Sanders is saying, prove me wrong. Essentially. So outside of the loyalty to your universities, I get it. I definitely get that from some of those comments. But some of those comments on that HBCU game day post, it's totally outside of the realm of competition. You can feel however you want to feel, but don't expect me to dim my light because you don't want to let yours shine. And that's basically what Shedeur is saying. Don't expect for me to dim my light just because you won't let yours shine. So I feel like the whole conversation centered around, his comments are overblown. If you know who his dad is, which we all do, those comments that he made shouldn't have been unexpected. Shouldn't have been unexpected at all. A lot of the stuff that I'm seeing, people are reaching. They're reaching. So on September 5th, the only thing we can do is see if Shedeur is who he says he is, and if Jackson State are who they say they are. I've just kind of searched the social media of some of the players on the team, and everybody is behind Shedeur. Coach Prime stood up at SWAC Media Day, and he said that Shedeur is the leader of that team. And just scrolling social media and checking the guys' Instagrams and Twitter, he is the leader of that team. I looked at Shane Hooks, their transfer wide receiver from Ohio University. He said, it wasn't Shane Hooks, but Shane Hooks did comment, and his post had something along the lines of JSU plus SWAC equals championship or something along those lines. You can go to Shane's IG, you can see what I'm talking about. The cornerback transfer from Florida State, Bolden, Isaiah Bolden. He tweeted that I stand behind my quarterback. I stand behind whatever my quarterback said. So Shedeur is the leader of that team. And just because you might not like what he said doesn't mean anything to them. It damn sure don't mean nothing to Shedeur. Again, just look at his social media. He's not posting. He's not posting on Instagram. He's not posting on Twitter. You go to his Twitter, you're going to see him working out with Kyle Trask of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's what you're going to see. You don't see Shedeur on there talking. You don't even you really haven't heard Shedeur talk until SWAC Media Day. There is one more interview out there with him with a YouTuber who went to Coach Prime's camp where Shedeur was and things like that. But other than that, those are the only two times that you've heard Shedeur Sanders speak while he's been a member of the Jackson State football team. So for him to make those comments, it tells me that he's putting in the work. For him to be able to even go to SWAC Media Day, the team allowed him to go. I mean, they could have sent Aubrey Miller, they could have sent Keontae Hampton. Obviously, the teammates felt comfortable enough for Shedeur and Niles Gaddy to go and represent the team. So, y'all think that y'all or any SWAC institution, you think you're going to humble Shedeur Sanders? I don't think so. I don't think so. Nothing that y'all are saying on social media is affecting him. Nothing that you're visibly saying is affecting him. Again, just go to his social media. He ain't posting. Some of these other guys at other institutions are talking, but obviously they're not going to get the same level of recognition because their last name isn't Sanders and they're not the son of an NFL Hall of Famer. That's really what it is. But as black folks, we got to get out of this whole mentality that, oh, because you come from a certain level of affluence, you might not necessarily be able to relate. Yeah, he ain't played SWAC football before, but he's about to. He can't help who his dad is. But clearly one thing that you're not going to do is humble him. You're not going to humble him. Nobody is. Except for his dad or his mother. If they feel like he's getting off track. But if you thought that he wasn't going to say what he said, you really need to look at who his father is. How his father played the game. So I said all that to say this. I don't want to be redundant, but don't allow people to not let your light shine because they're scared of letting their light shine. Again, don't try to dim my light because you won't let yours shine. Shedeur Sanders is definitely going to take his lumps in the SWAC. He is. And I'm sure that that's something that a lot of people are waiting for. I'm sure of it. You think Prime didn't take his lumps in the league, in college? He did. Any professional athlete will tell you that they did. Any collegiate athlete will tell you that they took their lumps also. But I'm going to pop my shit. Shedeur Sanders clearly is popping his shit. And I encourage anybody else in whatever field that you're in to do the same. If you're the best at what it is that you do, why wouldn't you say that? Why wouldn't you feel that way? Why wouldn't you exude that? You see Deion Sanders, he exudes confidence. And it's not arrogance. Because arrogance would be saying something and not being able to back it up. Deion Sanders is a I don't know how many time Pro Bowler, played Major League Baseball at a high level, and baseball is the hardest sport to play. And don't let anybody tell you any different. He played baseball at a high level. So if you thought that Shedeur, and I'm not saying that Shedeur isn't humble, but I'm just saying, if you thought those comments made Shedeur feel any type of way, and who's and all? I mean, we're all on social media, so he probably read some of your comments. But Shedeur ain't talking. You've heard Shedeur Sanders speak twice. You probably won't hear from Shedeur Sanders again until after the game on September 5th. And it's not because the team or the university is putting a muzzle on him. They're not. Shedeur Sanders is about work. I don't even know the young man, and I know he's about work. What are the 18 to 22-year-old? Social media is huge. What are the 18 to 22-year-old isn't on social media every day or posting? Again, just go look at his social media. Look at what his teammates say about him. Look at how his teammates support him. Them boys are working, and they not playing with no other school in the SWAC. There's no target on JSU's back. JSU is simply looking in the mirror and saying that their toughest competition is what's looking back at them in the mirror. I'm a huge Duke basketball fan. And one of the things that Coach K says is that they try to make practice extremely hard. Extremely hard. They want practice to be harder than it will be when they get to the court on game day, game night, whatever. So Shedeur ain't talking because he knows what he has to do. Shedeur is looking at the man in the mirror and saying that that's my biggest competition. He's not looking at any other defense at any other university and saying this is something that I need to be worried about. I need to be worried about making sure I got this playbook down, make sure I'm studying to the best of my ability, making sure I'm making the throws in the windows that the throws need to be in, things like that. That's what Shedeur Sanders is worried about. And he's unapologetic about it, clearly, as you heard last week. So this has been episode 1 of season 3 of the Still My Thoughts podcast. And if there's anything that I can leave you with, it's simply this. Pop your shit. Be confident in yourself. Don't let nobody try to humble you. Life is gonna humble you if you're not doing the necessary things that you need to do. That's inevitable. Pop your shit. Don't allow people to tell you or don't allow people to define you and tell you who you should be, how you should move, and things like that. Life is the greatest. Experiences are the greatest teacher. The most important thing to take away from this episode: don't allow anyone to dim your light because they are afraid to let theirs shine. Peace.